Many thanks to Resonix Sound Solutions for making this podcast a reality. Find out more about Resonix sound treatments at resonixsoundsolutions.com. SVR has become one of the real checkpoints for the sound quality world. It's the weekend where competitors bring the work they're most proud of, judges get pushed, and the community shows up ready to listen. If you care about sound quality and the craft behind a serious build, SVR is the place to hear what's possible in a proven venue, with a field of competitors who don't coast. Details and registration info are available through the Steel Valley Regional Facebook group or by contacting Larry Chishner. SVR 15, July 17th through 19th, 2026 at the West Banco Arena. Plan the trip now. Welcome to the SQOLOGY Podcast. I'm joined today by Mike Myers. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
And we finally have our special guest, Mark Bruno. Hello, Mark.
Hello, everybody.
We started planning this maybe around 9 months ago or so, and then everybody's, mostly my procrastination on things happened. And anyway, we finally got Mike's shuffled around, and Mark is finally with us, and very appreciative of that. A few things have happened since we first discussed doing this, but anyway, welcome, Mark. I'm glad to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Cliff. Thanks, Mike.
It's good to have you on.
Yeah, no, it's good to be on.
I know your history in car audio is probably much deeper than most people realize, at least on the national scene. You're, for most people who are currently involved, a fairly recent addition. It's not like you had been competing nonstop for 30 years or something, like one or two other people that have the same kind of breadth and depth of your experience in car audio. But what got you in car audio in the first place? Like, where did that journey start, when, and how?
You know, it's actually kind of a funny story. My stepdad's cousin's a guy named Bob Nichols, and he owned a stereo shop here in Seaside, and it was called Cartoons with a K, and they did Alpine, all the cool stuff. But I think I was 13 years old, and we were at the county fair, and Bob had an older, well, then it was a new Mercedes. I want to say it was a 500 SEC, like the coupe.
Okay.
Very cool car. And it was a demo car. So if I remember right, he had 36 Seos 6-inch in the back.
Oh, my.
And that was one of the ones that had the gas tank right behind the rear seat.
Right. Yep. I had one.
And so I remember peeking in the rear window, and he had a Cartoons hat that was just doing tricks on the back deck of that thing. It was flying around, and then eventually it would fall off, and he would send me in there to get it. And then I'm feeling the air pressure and all that. So I mean, that was it for me. I was, locked in and had to figure out how to do that, even though I was 13 years old and, had a bicycle I could put something on or something at that
That's
point.
phenomenal.
Right?
Yeah.
So ultimately I ended up going to work for him. Through high school, I started building enclosures for people, started doing my own installs and things like that. And my stepdad was an electrical contractor, so I was crawling under houses at 13 with him. So I kind of had a little bit of a grip on, how electricity worked and all that stuff. So, the AC side of things with signal kind of came easy for me because I learned the hard way by being shocked at 60 hertz, 120 volts a lot.
That'll do it.
Yeah. So if you ever see, I'm a little sensitive at 60 hertz. So I think Mike calls me out for not having enough of that frequency in my car. Right?
I'm scared of it.
So I don't know what it is. It just brings back bad memories. I can't sleep afterwards. Yeah. So ultimately I went to work for him and as a sales guy, and a guy named Tim Haynes and I had built a couple cars that I'd taken to Iasca, actually before Iasca, NACA, way back when. And did a bunch of stuff up and down the coast with that car. I had one car that won every show and entered that year in California. Then, of course, like all people that are planning on going to the finals, I decided to tear a bunch of it down.
Always a recipe for success.
Oh, yeah, and put in a bunch of new passive crossovers that were really cool looking with big air core inductors and poly caps and all that fun stuff. And we had to take the subwoofer out and the rear rack out that had two Infinity RSDS 12s. Infinite baffle, and it was in a 1994 Thunderbird Super Chicken is what I called it.
No, those are fun.
Yeah, it was a great car, and it had that giant rear deck, so it was perfect for IB. The problem is that's kind of where we integrated those crossovers so you could see them and for installation and all that stuff. And apparently when we put the woofers back in, one of them ended up with a cold solder joint. And when they're sharing airspace and an amplifier, that was not a recipe for success.
Right. Yeah. A very big unbalanced load at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, out of phase with each other and all kinds of good stuff. So my mid bass disappeared and
was not a recipe for success then. Yeah,
no, definitely not. Definitely. And so that's why I tend to run what I brung these days. I learned that lesson the hard way, making all these changes and, try not to do changes until it's the off season or what have you.
Iteration is key.
Yeah, exactly.
So where'd you end up next?
So what did I do? So I bounced around to a couple different retail places in the area. I met Reese Haggett, who was the guy who pretty much started Alpine way back in the day.
Okay.
And at that point, he was at Eclipse. And
this was, you're in California at the time?
In California, yeah. Okay. He came in for a sales training with Ray Windsor and all that stuff. He saw a car that I had done before, and he was coming out with the DDL system, with all the fiber optic cable and the first digital processor for a car, all that fun stuff. So we got one of the first units in the country, the first round of prototypes. We got one of those, and I remember the manual was all in Japanese. You had to look at pictures to try to figure things out. Ultimately, what you really had to do was just kind of play with buttons and watch it on an RTA and see what it was doing to figure out how to use the thing. So I went through that whole process, and that actually is the vehicle that we ended up doing really well with. And so I was down attending a training at Fujitsu, and Ray was kind of struggling through kind of what it does because there's no manual. He hadn't really had his hands on one in a car like that. And Reese kind of bumped me and said, hey, why don't you go up there and show him what you've learned with it? So I went up there and kind of, I forget how many reps are there. There's, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 reps and maybe 20 dealers, and just kind of ran through what I knew about the system and all that. And then he asked me to go to CES that year. And at CES, he says, hey, I'm going to find a spot for you and make you our national trainer.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Although I failed one class in my life, and it was speech. It was in college, right?
And so immediately goes directly into a speech role going in front of people.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, Cliff, what happened is I immediately started sweating when he told me what I was going to be doing.
You're like, oh, training. That sounds like fun. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, whoa, wait. And he said, it's what you just did. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, Reese ends up not getting hired back. They let his contract expire. Apparently he spent way too much money or something like that. There's all sorts of stories about it. And Ray became the national sales manager. And it took about 6 months for Ray to get the budget to hire me, but then he brought me in. And by the time I actually made the move down there, we were about 3 months out of CES. They had all this new product stuff. And so I never went out and did any training in the field. My first indoctrination into being the trainer was in front of 120 reps at the Consumer Electronics Show at our rep meeting.
Even better.
And oh man, I was like,
and of course, those are the kindest, most gentlest people when it comes to any technical information being conveyed, I'm sure.
Yeah, they did not want to hear the technical stuff. They wanted to hear how much money they can make, right?
Right.
All I'll say is thank God I didn't eat anything the night before, because I'm pretty sure I would have made a mess on stage had I. Yeah. Yeah, one way or the other, it would have came out, right? So that was an interesting experience. But what I quickly realized is if you know the product better than anybody in the room, you've got nothing to worry about standing up in front of them and actually training. So it took me a few times to do that. And I also realized that silence was kind of my friend when you're doing these trainings. It's okay to rest for 5 or even 10 seconds and get your thoughts right. And because everybody just seems to... Yeah, because everybody just seems to draw in even more if you're on track up to that point. Yeah. So,
what's he going to say next?
Yeah, something like that, right? Yeah. What kind of crap's going to come out of his mouth next?
And then,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, or
Yep.
Yeah. So I did that for, I think, about a year and a half. And then that rolled into being a trainer as well as being the Western Regional Sales Manager as Eclipse was starting to grow.
That was a good time to be alive.
Oh, it was actually a super cool ride. I still hang out with some of the reps once in a while. Like I saw Brad Crawford down in Southern California at the show. And he's retiring right now, but he's with Western Sales and Marketing back then. It was a great rep, and he's a very technical kind of a trainer guy. And he and I were kind of reliving those days, and he was just, big ear to ear grin. He goes, "Those were just great times." I mean, we were just, forging a new path. It was like reinventing Alpine for the specialty realtors. Right. Realtors, listen to me, especially realtors, especially retailers.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Then Dan McMillan up north, and I was just up there a few weeks ago, and we were talking about it, all that, and so they were really good times.
Yeah, and it seems like especially when Eclipse was coming out, like from what I remember from the consumer angle. I mean, I had a couple Eclipse head units. I had the one of the Eclipse aluminum 15s that were awesome subs.
Yeah.
And that was kind of in the later run, of Eclipse, but throughout their, tenure in the market, they always seem to have a really spotless reputation. Like it feels like they were one of the brands. I mean, I'm sure it was different working on the inside on your end. But,
no, it's exactly like you're driving it.
but from a consumer angle, and part of it may have been just, the internet wasn't the same as it is today. But, there was, from a consumer angle, it felt like it was pretty much like, there's, Alpine had its good and its bad, and Sony did, and that was like, especially when the Explode series kind of came out and ES kind of took a dive. And, there was a lot of that, a lot of complacency in the market. And it seemed like Eclipse was the one that was continually, how many volts can we throw out in this output? How, what we got here? I mean, the security discs were super annoying. But other than that, I mean, I think I still have at least 2 Eclipse decks that are completely bricked because I can't do anything with them. But
ESN.
Yeah,
because ESN stuff. Yeah,
yep.
The ESN was super cool. The concept was great, but actually using a CD was, I thought, a really cool idea. It was just using the table of contents from a CD player as your code.
Right.
Problem is nobody ever remembered, or the installer would use their favorite CD, and then next thing you know, they're working for somebody else, and nobody remembered what they used, and we would reset a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But I thought the concept was great. We actually caught people and had the cops go pick them up with stolen radios with ESNs in them. Mm-hmm. So that part of it was really cool. And then you probably remember there was an insurance policy on it where if it got stolen, we'd give you a new radio.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that work out?
So it was there. I mean, it actually worked out great. I don't remember us ever replacing a radio from being stolen.
Really? Okay.
So yeah. So either people didn't follow through with it, or the word got out fairly quickly.
Right.
And, retailers, one of the reasons those radios were popular and we kept selling stuff when everything else was kind of slowing down was, the distribution was pretty skinny on them. So retailers weighed heavily on them.
Right.
But it was something different. And that's one of the things we always tried to do with that brand back then was, to create something that other retailers didn't have to sell. So the reason we had an aluminum cone on a subwoofer wasn't because it performed better. It performed as good as, or maybe a little bit better than other products that were out there, but it's because it looked super cool and it was so different.
Right.
And they did perform really well.
And they sounded great. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Because I went from Solo Barracks to those, and it was in the Solo Barrack back then. It was a really good sub. Like it was,
yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, it was one of the subs that just had a noticeable like sound to it that was unmistakable. It was fun.
Yeah, it was one. I think it was one of the first speakers to kind of throw all the old rules out about subwoofers. And instead of making the cone assembly and voice coil assembly and all that as light as you could, we kind of went the other direction.
Yeah,
we were just Yeah, we're trying to compress air in a car. So it's a totally different thing than compressing air in a big room or in an auditorium or in a concert hall, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
you can throw away some efficiency to gain a lower resonant frequency.
Exactly. Exactly. And we used a guy named Tilo Stompler, who TC Sounds, you guys probably remember.
Yep.
So he was the guy who did the engineering on that. I went to him kind of with the concept. Here's what we're thinking. And of course, like everybody else we talked to, he said, well, we can do that with a bunch of different cone materials, but paper's the most cost effective and the stiffest that you're going to get for the money. I'm like, yeah, but everybody has paper cone. We actually want to do this in aluminum, a spun aluminum cone. And he looked at me like I had two heads. Right. And then I explained to him why and kind of what we're doing with the rest of the brand and all that. He goes, actually, that's brilliant. He goes, I just have to find a supplier who can make them. So it was interesting. You're reminding me of things. You're talking about how good the brand seemed on the outside. Do you remember what happened to the first round of those aluminum speakers? Were you in the market at that point? Either of you guys?
I owned one, but I wasn't in the field to know, details.
So they were glued together basically with super glue.
Okay.
And the super glue that he got, the first batch of it was older and had started to go bad, which I didn't know anything, something was wrong with the way it was kept. And so cones were basically flying off those things. Actually, the surrounds were coming off the cones and then the cones would like smash themselves up.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happened right out of the chute. And luckily we had just a small batch out there. So we caught it fairly quickly and then replaced them all and did the right thing for all the dealers and everybody. And the second round of those things were pretty much bulletproof and sounded great.
And then the titanium cones came out, right?
Yeah. So I was working on that project with Tilo and, the Japanese didn't like to pay you a lot of money back then.
Right.
And I'd been there for quite a while. And if you remember the rest of the speaker line, I was heavily involved in the coaxials, the components, the VIFA drivers that we had that were, I thought, pretty good speakers for the money.
Right.
And we did those point source speakers. I kind of came up with that idea with one of our suppliers to get around Kef's patent on the drivers so that we had kind of that same thing, but different. And it was designed for car. And so all this stuff had huge margins for the company and for the retailers. And, we're making money on this brand. And they're like, yeah, so we thought we'd give you a $2,000 raise this year.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, great. And at that point, Rockford had been trying to get me to go work for them sort of as a regional. That's all timing with those guys. And Precision Power called me up. I knew Sean Gibbons. And he called me up and said, hey, we need a regional. And basically they gave me an employment contract that was more than double what I was making at Eclipse. And I got to move to Arizona, which allowed me to buy a house. So it was totally different times and stuff.
Yeah.
Buy a house in Arizona?
Yeah, at that time.
In 12 volt?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? But you couldn't buy anything in California. I mean, I could barely buy a car with what I was making in California with that, right? So it was kind of a no-brainer, especially with my mom being in real estate. And she's like, hey, you need to buy a house as soon as you can. I mean, that was always instilled in me when I was younger. So that kind of was in the back of my head. And that was really the reason why I made the move to Arizona. More money and more opportunity to kind of set your future in motion.
So how long were you with Eclipse altogether?
Almost 7 years.
Wow.
6.5 years.
Really kind of the majority of the time that they were at the peak of the market.
Yeah. When I first got there, it was just the radios, kind of the third generation, I think. It wasn't the cheap stuff, but it's right when the 410 came out. And that was when it started to get good. It looked cool and all that. And the performance was there. You could really hear the difference in them. And then, all the way through, gosh, I can't remember. But when we had the mini disc changer, kind of through all of that stuff. And even when they had the voice operated navigation system, I can't remember what we called that.
On the mini disc, I don't know if you were involved with anything of that, but I mean, how was that with licensing with Sony and stuff? Because I know Sony is notorious with their formats. They tried with the mini disc to try to open it up. Obviously, they failed with Betamax and they failed with some other things. And it seems like they tried to open up mini disc a little bit too little, too late. And I asked because I was very into mini disc. I had the first mini disc recorder that came out that Sony released. Cool. I had a Sony ES main disc changer in my car at one point. I also had the main disc in-dash, because even after that time, like the Sony, had the Mavica cameras and stuff like that recorded shots to a floppy disk essentially. So until things went to a memory card, and even in the beginning, the memory cards weren't obviously very big at all. And so there wasn't a lot of indication at the time to say, well, all these writable media are just going to be obsolete soon. So at the time, it felt like main disc was really the future, because it was compact. You didn't destroy it just by opening up the package. It was recordable. You could make your own mixtapes with fidelity. You could record studio level, stuff with a recorder that fit in the palm of your hand. There was a lot of advantages to it. So, I can see forward looking brands like Eclipse seeing that, but then, how was that competing with Sony with their own format?
Yeah. So it's kind of ironic, because Reese used to run around with a memory card way back when that had, like you said, very little memory on it, but he was showing people, hey, this is solid state. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
And we're going to be there faster than you think. And, CD is temporary. He kind of talked about mini disc, not as mini disc, but in general, I think he had already seen it in Japan. And he was kind of against it, saying, hey, we need to just skip that. So to me, it was ironic when we brought that stuff out.
Okay.
But you sound like the perfect guy to buy the 3-disc changer. The 3-disc changer I have at home is really what I was saying. I've got one sitting at home, so you sound like the guy. You've got some decks for it too. That's perfect.
I was the market. Yeah. I probably still have 150 main discs. I don't use them, but yeah.
I think I have a 2 megabyte card. I think it was maybe that. Maybe it was smaller. I don't remember.
Yeah. The whole media format changes over the years that we all went through. And because there was a time, there in the late 90s, early 2000s with, main disc being more mainstream for a little bit there, where when we were judging cars, for like Mecca, whatever, you had to be pretty much ready for CD, cassette tape, or mini disc, and then it could be any of those at any given time. It was, because there was the rare aspect of the cassette, and there was the rare aspect of the mini disc, and then you had the CD that was the majority. But yeah.
Well, the mini disc, to me, the big advantage back then was when you had even an SQ car that could hit 140, CDs were skipping in a lot of the dashes, and the mini disc, you didn't have that problem. So there were guys that really the opinion makers, right? The guys who were competing back in those days were also the guys creating all the opinions out there for other consumers. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of moving to that little changer. And that's kind of where those sales went, early adopters and kind of the opinion making crowd that was out there.
Was there anything else in the scene at that time that you saw that maybe was a unique perspective?
Well, everybody asked me why I run those ribbons in my car. And I was, everybody was doing, well, not everybody, but the big thing was compression horns and all that. And back then I never really heard a car with compression horns in it that I loved. They did a lot of things well in terms of imaging and staging compared to, for 2-seat compared to kick panels and all of that. But the tonality in them just never really kind of got me going. So I never got into those. And a buddy of mine was telling me about Bollinger Graebner and how they had some products that might be cool in a car. And this particular gentleman was an engineer at Harman way back when, and he owned a company called I can't think of the name of it now. XTC Baffles.
Okay.
Remember the little foam baffles you used to put in your door? You'd cut them in half, put one on the left speaker, one on the right speaker, and keep the rain out. Yep. He owned that company, and he's also the guy who did all my passive crossovers. And so they made like air core inductors, and he had all the polycaps and all that stuff in stock. Super smart guy. He's also the guy that helped voice a lot of those speakers and was sending me different crossovers when we were doing the Eclipse stuff. So he was kind of a behind the scenes guy who just loved doing this stuff, and he and I hit it off. So for whatever reason, he was always helping me do these things. He was way more talented than I was when it comes to all of that stuff. I was good at listening to stuff. But anyway, he hooked us up with the Bollinger Grainer guys. So Ray Windsor and I went up to Lake Tahoe, and I got to listen to a room they had with these 72-inch planer drivers doing full surround sound. And I mean, it just blew me away. So we had to figure out how to do that in a car. So we had this concept of doing an 8-inch ribbon on its side, and there was an under dash housing for it that would allow it to kind of work sort of like a compression driver does. You can mount it back underneath the dash, and it had like this little lens that would reflect things upward. And it worked pretty good. I had a car that I built at CES. Although I didn't use the lens, we actually mounted them in the floors and put grills. And even though they were behind, like on the driver's side, behind the brake pedal, since it's a line source, it really didn't matter. So that car actually centered out and was dash high and all that in both seats. And it was pretty impressive. Long story short, I left the company before they delivered those. And the engineering staff or somebody there made the decision to ship them with the lenses riveted on the driver as opposed to what we had planned on, which was screwing them on so you could remove them. So obviously when you go to drill out the rivets, all the metal then collects right in the ribbon.
And the magnet goes, here, come to me.
So they had, it's a push-pull magnet setup in there. So all the metal goes in there.
Right.
So that made them, I wouldn't say stillborn, because I still run into people once in a while who said, I had a set of those. They were amazing, blah, 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 blah. But it just bugged me that they never got released in a way where they could reach their full potential on the competition circuit and all that. So
yeah.
Just my little pet peeve. So I kind of had that little bug in my bonnet, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so stubborn about those speakers and really like them, and they're capable if you do the right things with them.
That's cool. Mike, you got any follow-up questions that we've blown over?
Yeah, when I first saw the car, with those in there, I was like, I don't know about that, and then you hit play and you're like, oh, okay, they really do sound great, but I expected it to be like a more like a wide, not as focused center, because the width of the speaker, actually is really wide compared to like a 3-inch mid or something like that. So it was really kind of astonishing how focused of a sound and everything you're able to get. But I thought that was just kind of neat.
Yeah, no, they're a challenge mounted that way. Ideally, you'd mount them vertically in a car, and I have a vehicle now that might be the recipient of the last pair that I have mounted vertically. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden you've got a vertical line source instead of a horizontal one. It'll create other problems, but the cool thing about them is they don't have a lot of reflections on the long ends of the driver, right? So it's like think of it as having 3 2-inch drivers all next to each other.
Yeah.
So it's going to focus everything kind of straight out in front of you, and you don't get reflections off the side windows or towards the middle of the car like you do with a regular conical speaker.
Yeah. Similar to a line array kind of.
That's what it is. It's a line source, right? So you just have to think a little bit differently when you're putting them in, and so horizontally is not a bad solution in a car because it takes the side glass out of play, but that does limit a little bit of the width that I might be able to get on. Yeah. And I don't know if I guess it would be real. Yeah, exactly. I still get pretty good ambient width, but it just depends on the music now.
Well, the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I mean, with the way that it's sitting, you don't move your head like when you're in a car, space. You don't really move your head so much like left to right.
Yeah, exactly.
But you will get taller and shorter judges quite a lot. So that would make it, I think, probably a little less susceptible to frequency deviations by moving up and down a bit by having mounted that way.
Yeah. It's interesting because early on I had a lot of problems with taller and shorter judges and huge variances on scores.
Yeah.
And those cars are not very good at being able to move the seat up and down, because if you push it up, it wants to push forward also.
Shoot you, forward.
Right. So I just kept working on it and working on it and working on it. And Robert, kind of the same thing in his car. And over time, it got a little more stable, but occasionally, like, I'll get a judge who's taller, and I might have an issue with them because they're getting different reflections and things than somebody who's, kind of in the pocket or even a little bit lower than the pocket.
Yeah. Well, those cars have a really large kind of a dashboard front to rear,
Yep.
So,
yep.
So in that, the dash is kind of like a horn, between the dash and the windshield, it's kind of like a horn. Totally. So if your face is not like within that horn window, then it will change it quite a bit.
Yeah. And then sometimes for technical stuff, like the EMMA stuff, you have to have your head just in the right spot. And otherwise the last, the last high frequency goes flying around the car.
Oh,
for whatever reason. And I've heard other cars that don't have those speakers do the same thing, but it's reflecting off of something, and it's hard to control unless you dial it down.
So, cars are just difficult. I mean, there's a lot of glass in the top.
I've seen that, kind of a big movement with people using dash locations because it's easier to control kind of some of that stuff. What you've got, I guess, right?
I mean, you get, some free low frequency extension out of your mid-range drivers because they're horn loaded,
Yep.
But at the same time, if the angle, between the mid to like the glass reflection is pretty extreme, like smaller than, 45, closer to like, more like 60 degrees or something like that, then you start to get nulls like in the response of the mid. And so, you can kind of point the speaker more towards the inside the cab to help smooth some of that out.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people are starting to embrace what the OEMs had already figured out long ago, is that the dash locations work great.
Yeah, you get the biggest bang for your buck for sure there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but I mean, as far as all of the trade-offs go, it's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like Teresa's truck, when I don't screw the tune up, is really good. Paint off the dash.
Well, I mean, there's so many good sounding vehicles that I've heard with that type of setup, especially at SVR when we listen to so many. And, it's like a more of a resurgence, because for a while, everybody was just, A-pillars, pillar pods, dash pods. And people are starting to, embrace this again, at the dash location. And there was a lot of pretty good sounding cars.
I agree. I usually don't get around and listen to a lot of cars because I'm usually just the demo fiend with people in my car and Teresa's car. So I did get around and hear a few there, and I was kind of blown away by some of the cars that I heard.
Yeah.
And you can tell there's definitely a rising tide right now with SQ cars and the work that people are putting in, the sound deadening that people are doing, all the things that, we learned way back when that you just kind of have to do. I think people were doing in stages, right? They would, let's just get the speakers in and do a little bit of sound deadening. And the reality is when you really kill that car, that's when you hear all the difference, at least for me in my old crusty years. But
yeah,
it makes a big difference.
So looking back on the, competition scene in particular, you've won quite a few of these money round, top 40, top 50 type of contests, so like Aggieland, SVR, back to back. What do you attribute some of that success to?
That's a tough question. I kind of tune the car the way I like it to sound. And I usually, when I'm tuning, I'm looking for things that don't belong. So I'm not looking for a certain type of signature sound. I'm hearing stuff that just doesn't sound right, and I'll work on tuning that stuff out. And I think what happens, the biggest thing that I hear people say is, there's really nothing bad to point at in this car. I mean, you can nitpick anything, right? And sure. I nitpick it daily. That's, I think, kind of how it got. Well, I would like to listen to it, but so I think that's really the key. And you figure you've got, like, at SVR, we had 6 different judges.
Yeah.
And I would say, no 2 judges were looking for the same thing when they get into a car. So it's easy for them to get into one car and just say, oh my gosh, something's really wrong. And they hear it through all of their tracks and you get really hammered. So you just have to make it, I think anyway, where there's really not much you can, pick on in the system.
Right.
And it was kind of like I was telling you at Aggieland this year when I got out, and you said, yeah, that low bass note is way too hot. And I said, I know, but I'm running what I brung, and I kind of made the decision back here before I got there to leave it that way because it did some other things with some of the other orgs better that way, in my opinion. And the put on track is always a pain in my butt. And I made some adjustments to it for SVR. Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
That's Klifton.
But, I had Miguel got in the car at Aggieland, and he said, that's too hot right there. I said, yeah. He goes, you're not going to change it? I'm like, no. He goes, I got my laptop. We can change it right now. I said, no, I'm not going to change it. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. And had I changed it might not have been, what was it, 7/100ths difference between.
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit bigger spread than that. I don't know. But I mean, like I said, I mean, I learned a long time ago, just run what you brung. And the reason Teresa's truck did so poorly at SVR is because I was sitting in it trying to make some changes from a show that we had before, some good feedback that I heard in it. So I was sitting in it trying to make those changes. And then I got distracted by a competitor who needed the music. And when I came back in, I didn't listen to it. I just saved it and shut the computer and got out. Well, apparently I pushed something where some things changed pretty radically. And I didn't listen to it until I got back home. And I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? So,
I think we've all done something like that.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, that's why I try not to break that rule, right?
Yeah.
Because you're there where there's all these different people and there's all these distractions and all that, where if I'm sitting here by myself, I've got, 3-4 hours to get it right.
Yeah.
Or I should say, not to screw it up.
Yeah. Don't break it. Yeah. And I think I've told you that at a couple shows, but I'm glad you haven't listened to me because it's really paid off for you.
Well, I think at SVR, you said it wasn't the low note. It was, I think you said the 4th note.
Yeah. The second.
Yeah. Second to last one. Right. So I think, so that's not the low. Yeah. It's a little higher. And I was struggling with that one because I knew it was a little bit lower, but as I turned it up, it then started to pull back. So without a front sub, you have to be super careful in that range because those notes are pretty naked. There's not a whole lot.
Your mid bass
cover them
really
up.
Play it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they probably could if I actually cut them out and made them true IB as well. I probably could get a little more out of them, but I don't know if I want to do that or not at this point, right?
I don't think you should mess with it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's what everybody keeps telling me. Don't touch it. Don't even breathe on it. Yeah. Well, there's some guys coming up, and I'm guessing it's just a matter of time before guys start kicking its butt. But that's okay. I mean, I'm amazed that it's on the run that it's on right now. So
yeah. To have multiple,
car's doing amazing.
To have multiples like that in a row is your Mark Eldridge level stuff. Where
super impressive.
Yeah,
it's gotta be
especially considering the car is not, looking at it. It's a beautiful car. I mean, it obviously from the paint work and
hey, careful, Cliff, careful. Talking about my car, careful. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
it's not a radical build.
That's what it's a beautiful car, but it's not a purpose built sound quality car. It's not a Black Betty or a NASCAR or anything
or an
else.
Eclipse or an Eclipse.
Yeah. You haven't
where the steering wheel is.
Yeah. without any adjustments.
I know I was going to put you guys in the back seat and do a center seat thing, but there's no back seat. So
where would we sit? Get a bucket, maybe.
So I mean, but at the same time, it's still a show car, and I think that's kind of the two contrasts are in this room right now because, mics are simple, straightforward builds that do phenomenally well. And yours is still not a purpose-built car, but it's on the show car end of, showing up. But I think, it takes that kind of mixture at these things to where we don't just look like a Walmart parking lot. It's like,
oh yeah.
And so having that attraction to the car, it doesn't matter if you're a fan of the vehicle itself or not. There's so much work in that car that, the more unlike most builds, the closer you get to that car, the more you notice, and I think that's a really cool, what you're doing on the car show side, obviously, but for it to be doing as exceptionally and consistently well as it is doing on the competition side with not being a purpose-built vehicle is awesome. I mean, it really well done.
No, thanks. I mean, there's a lot of people that worked on that car, and I know Brian gets a lot of the credit for it, and he did the back end when we switched the amps and the cosmetic stuff and all that, which is amazing. But what a lot of people don't realize is the front speakers have been in that car since 2019. And I had some success with it then. Like, I actually beat Brian at one of the shows with the Cadillac, and I beat Scott Welsh, and I forget which I wanted. It wasn't his van. It was something before that. But the problem is I had the Zapco processor in it, and that thing was, some days it'd be great, and especially at smaller shows. And if you had a show that was a money round, you could look at score sheets, and there'd be huge swings on the same tune with the same, money round guys kind of going through it, and it would just change. So it's like when it got hot, the image would go from being all the way across the dash, it would collapse to the middle or something like that. So that's really what
go to the next door.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had Matt Roberts
play it all.
Matt Roberts got out of the car at a big show in LA, and he looks at me, he goes, dude, your image is all screwed up. It starts in the center and goes to the left pillar. I'm like, basically, F you, Matt. There's no way it does that, right? And I didn't know him that well at the time, but I get in the car, and like 5 minutes later, I jumped in it, and it went all the way across the dash. And I had Nick Adams was parked right next to me. I said, Nick, is this going from the center over? And he's like, no, it's across the dash. He goes, your image is a little bit fuzzy compared to where it was, but it wasn't, like he was saying. So I just chalked it up to, him having a bad day, or, maybe he didn't like me. I don't know. Right. Like competitors do. Right. But he seems like a pretty straightforward guy. And then his wife got in it. And that was after, I forget who went through it. We had somebody else go through it right before her. And she had it also, not at the middle, but it was definitely way off the right side. And so I'm just like, whatever. Right. So we're getting ready for finals that year. And we're sitting in Brian's garage at his shop, and we just put some finishing touches on it. The thing sounded amazing. We're like, hey, let's go get some sandwiches and come back. So we left the system on with that Zapco. You could leave it running, only we had the volume turned down. And we come back, eat our sandwiches, and Nick goes, hey, I'm going to get in here and listen to it. And like 30 seconds later, he gets out. He goes, dude, you've got no right side. No. And it was from the center to the left, and the fans were running inside that Zapco. You could hear something in there just buzzing. And so that was our deal. So we tried to do the finals that year with fans and things like that on it, and it still didn't work. So that was when we were in Arkansas, I think, at the pig farm.
Oh yeah.
When you said work for days, I was like, you're being awfully kind and optimistic there. I mean, hours, minutes, maybe days. That's it, buddy.
Well, I mean, when I say days, you got to remember where I live. Like, it's sunny and warm here today, and it's 64 degrees.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't get hot here. So I wouldn't experience those problems here, even if I was listening to it for long periods of time. Right. Because it was always cool enough around. But as soon as you went somewhere where there was any humidity, right, or it was 80 degrees, that, all bets were off. So at any rate, so switching to the ARC processor and the ARC amplifiers really stabilized that car and allowed us to, get the tune where it's doing kind of what it's doing now. But there were a few shows back then where it sounded really good. I will say this, the ARC processor, and the amplifiers, when at the car at its best now compared to the car at its best then, the biggest difference isn't the tonality, it's the spatial cues and the focus and things like that, that I think set it apart. And I think you were asking that before, kind of what do you attribute it to? And I think that, when you get in that car, that's one of the first things most people say. They go, wow, that's some stage. I remember Harry the first time he heard it, and he actually got out of the car and said, man, I go, what? He goes, the stage in that car is amazing. And then he hammered me on not having enough mid bass, but.
Well, the size of that, just the size of those cars and your how you're staged in them as far as seating and compared to your speaker position and everything else. Like there's a lot that you can do with that car inherent to the format itself to give a grandiose sense of space, as long as you're able to tune beyond the boundaries of the car. And like you said, a lot of that I'm sure is getting the illusion that you're not in a car anymore by killing those resonances and everything else.
Yep.
But I mean, I've heard the same thing from several people. In reference to the car, is just the sense of stage and space is exceptionally good. And I think that was one of the things that like when Eldridge was at his top of the game, that was one of the things that really put him over, because like if you were, if it was, and it was at the time, the money rounds, it was mostly like him versus Steve Head, and the tonality on both might be very good, and both the vehicles are being able to disappear and do all the right things. But even if Eldridge was lacking somewhere in tonality comparatively, he was making it up in, especially back on the old Iasca score sheet, like with the distance to stage and then depth, those additively, he was being able to get so far ahead of everybody else. Just in that category, he was 5 or 6 points ahead just before he even started anywhere else. So if it was this car versus that car, he could lose a couple points here and there, but he was making it up in that, in that staging area that nobody else really could touch, just because of the way he had the car set up. But
I wish I could have heard his cars back in the day.
They were really really good or really really not great. It was depending on the day.
home run derby is what we call that, right?
he was. So I mean, and I mean, Eldridge, of the guys that competed consistently, from the mid '80s up until the past decade, of those people, I would say he was one of the ones who consistently would come out and put it all on the line and never kind of do the opposite of what you're saying, where he wouldn't bring what he brought. He wouldn't, iterate. He would take a swing every time,
That's awesome. Good for him, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm playing. Well, it's funny. I don't see it as playing it safe. I think it's just if you've got something that is kind of not doing anything bad, why would you go in there? Like I've gone in there at local shows and have made those changes. And I might make, 0.2 of an adjustment here, 0.3 of an adjustment there. And you would think you can't hear that, yet the judges whack me for it. So, and they're spot on most times with what I adjusted, calling it out. So I think once you get to that point, little tiny adjustments can have a big impact on, the final results. Like the put on stuff. I mean, I wasn't making big adjustments, but it was making big differences with how the bass was presented in the car. Instead of staying forward and out there, it would come and get in your face with, did I just say that? That didn't sound right. Anyway.
we'll just put that part for the first.
Yeah, that's how you'll introduce it.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. And I didn't mean that, like a negative that you're.
No, I totally. Yeah. No, I totally. Yeah. I understand. Because it's not that I haven't tried to make it better. Every time I do, I get smacked. Right. The finals, I always try to make it because, I'm finally to the point now where I'm doing a couple of different tunes for orgs, which I don't really like to do.
Right.
But I think you have to based on some of the source music.
Yeah. Because you compare, well, especially, I mean, not to single it out, but I mean, the Emma disc in particular is tuned, mastered so far differently than the mainstream
right.
music that most everything
right.
else is.
Yep.
And
then I ask us same thing, right? Playing the 90s, a lot of the 90s stuff
right.
doesn't have a lot of low bass.
Right.
And it wants to be, their idea of low bass back then was 60, 70 hertz, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's all that people.
Well, because even if you got if you, at best back then, if you were a normal everyday person, you had, some Serwin Vega big 15-inch bookshelf speakers that, you set on top of your dresser, and, they got loud, but even with those 15-inch drivers in there, they played down to 55 if you got lucky. So
exactly.
And nobody was using subwoofers.
You've been to a lot of shows over the years. Are there any that stand out as like your favorite for any reason or most memorable?
I love Aggieland and I love SVR. I think both of them are super fun. They're totally different style events for sure. I mean, Larry's great, Pate's great, and just you get kind of the cream of the crop for those regions at those shows, I would say, and a lot of guys that travel too. But I just love the atmosphere of those shows and the camaraderie that you have there when everybody kind of gets together. To me, that's probably the ones that really stick out. I mean, locally, Richard's Barbecue is amazing. Same thing. It's a really laid back, kind of fun event to do. Paul always is a great host down in Southern California with the shows that he does when we get down there. But now there's so many shows in California. It's like you don't find yourself going that far for shows very often. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, back in the day, going to the finals way back when, I think the last one I was at was in 91, actually competing. And, I think there were 32 cars in my class. I mean, it was just insane, the number of people that were there and the tweaking tunes and how, guys would not help other competitors because they were so competitive back then. And, I was always one of those guys that would jump in and help tune cars. Like I tell the story about Fishman's car when he brought it, the first Fishmobile. And Larry Fredericks and I were sitting in the front of that car because it hadn't been tuned at all. We're sitting in the front tuning it while he's in the back, like putting fish in the fish tank and all that stuff. And then he's in my class and he ends up beating me. I'm like, what? And exactly. Right. So, but that's just how I've always been. It's like, I truly believe a rising tide raises all boats, and I'm the first guy that'll help. And that's one of the things I love about Brian. He's the same way. Yep. Mitchell. And I think that's one of the things that kind of got me back into car stereo and competing. The first show I ever went to, I think I told this story to you, Mike. But the first show I went to when I got back into it was at Brian's shop when he had the Cadillac, and it was just just starting to peak. And I brought the first iteration. It was a Hellcat, not this Red Eye, thinking this is the best car I've ever heard, which was a true story because I hadn't been out listening to cars in a long time. And I'm thinking there's no way this car's not going to win going to a show just with what I was listening to. And I go to the show, and Richard gets out of the car, and I go, well, how'd it do? He goes, well, and he starts going down this list of things that were wrong with it. And I'm thinking,
like, wait a minute.
That can't be right. And he goes, what you need to do is you need to ask Brian if you can listen to his car. So I go over and ask Brian. I say, hey, Richard said I should listen to your car. He goes, yeah, get in there. Here, I'll show you how to use it. It's all factory stuff. And he goes, listen as long as you want. And I sat in there for probably a half hour, and with my, jaw dropped going, I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. Yeah. And hearing it, I'm like, there's no way the way the install was done in that car was going to be able to do that. But it also kind of sparked the bug in me to go and to do one right. And I had a guy who wanted to buy my car at that point, and I wasn't interested in selling it until I heard Brian's car. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell this car because that guy valued the stereo system that was in it, how it was done, and all that. And they had just announced the Red Eye coming out, and I'm like, I'm going to order a Red Eye. So that's what I did, and then started really from scratch with the Red Eye using the same speakers, but approaching it totally differently. Like the original one had the ribbons in the dash firing up off the glass, and it was causing all kinds of smearing and stuff like that. That was really hard to control because it was a line source. But yeah, that was an eye-opening experience, and it kind of created a monster, as my wife will say.
It's cool that she, with you being able to have both vehicles and her participate, and I will say that, like at the bigger events that I've participated in, as far as SVR and Aggieland and everything, she is by far one of the most gracious, helpful people that I've ever met. So you got a wonderful person there with you, but it's really cool that you guys are able to do some of this together and travel together, and she's able to help do some of the the driving part of things and is willing to do that. I mean, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We kind of sat down and started talking about that, and I said, let's get a truck and do these shows, and let's put a system in your truck and make it an OE1 vehicle, so it'll be successful on the West Coast in OE1 class, and then we'll see how it does at these other shows, because it's really limited in terms of what we're allowed to do to it and stay in OE1 for WCA. And so at first she didn't really care about how she did at the shows, but now taking 21st at SVR, I kind of hear about it. So
you got used to that top 10.
Yeah, she was sitting there and they're calling people up, and she's not going up and get trophies. She's just looking at me. I'm like, what? She goes, you screwed it up, didn't you?
Oh. Uh-oh.
And of course, Robert's over there. Boyd, he's over there kind of egging her on. Yeah, well, he did make some changes. Anyway, but no, she's amazing. She's just people sometimes misunderstand her motivation. She just loves to help any way she can. And when she sees how hard the judges and all that are working at these shows, she wants to do whatever she can to make it easier for them. That's just how she is. That's how she's wired for everything.
You can tell. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's awesome to have her around and do all that. Now, if I can only get her to do all that stuff for me. Just kidding, honey. Just kidding.
You have to start judging.
Exactly. Yeah.
One day you'll be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man,
I've learned that that's not the case. I'm never going to be cool.
You have kids, right? Don't you have kids?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, all of our kids' college tuitions are sitting in the garage, so
Inheritance? Nope.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. There's no kids, so unless they're 4-legged and furry, we're it's not that we didn't want to; it just wasn't in the cards. So here we are, right? She has a horse. I have a car. We're all good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you going to make it out to the so I guess you'll be at WCA finals?
Yes.
And then are you going down to Alabama?
We're still up in the air on that. It's just a long haul.
I know.
And part of me wants to go because it's the finals. The other part of me doesn't want to reward organizations for putting it there. Is this the third year in a row?
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like a slap in the face when you're this far away, and the amount of money that we spend to make those trips, and then hotel rooms aren't cheap there, and so on and so forth. So,
and then
it's a tough one.
You got $2,000 plus in entry fees to do.
Exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. We're still up in the air. It'll be kind of a game time decision, I think. I mean, I want to do it. The car's on a run, which makes you want to do it. But
yeah,
man, it's hard. Like last year, I had to fly in with stuff that I had going on here. And then Teresa had to be back for the first tee golf tournament because she runs transportation for that event. So she flew out and then I drove back. So it's just, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
That was 3 full days of driving on that one to get back. And it was, long days and all that.
Was it quite a bit better when it was like Missouri and Arkansas? Yeah.
Middle of the country. I mean, we can get there in a couple of days if we have to. And that makes a huge difference. Like, getting out to Alabama, I think we were 3.5 days. And then the reality is we should have been 3.5 days to get back, but Brian and I were just kind of pushing. We were getting up earlier and driving into the night, which, that's when bad stuff happens pulling a trailer because you can't see what's on the road and you blow tires or whatever. So I'm knocking on wood, we were fortunate that didn't happen. But the more you do it, the more you risk it, and eventually it's going to happen. So
yeah, it's just average.
It's just I-40.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I want to do it. I really do. Like I said, I'm just kind of up in the air about it and not real happy that it's in Alabama.
I think it's tough too when, you still have the organizations pretty much all, when they say it's a unified finals. And of course I've harped on this before, but I'm going to harp on it again, with it being a unified finals, and then you have each organization basically a silo in terms of results. So, and in each of those cases, you have one, maybe two judges determining your outcome after you traveled, a week and dumped $4 or $5 grand into it and whatever else to, maybe win a trophy or maybe also lose it because of one judge's opinion. So
yeah, exactly.
It's
exactly
tough.
No. And the other thing, for Teresa, it's really tough in the orgs because, like I said, we built an OE1 car,
right? And
she's up against cars that are, kind of off the charts in terms of what they've done to modify it. And so that makes it, for her, the org stuff, I don't think is as fun when we travel. Although the money round stuff is kind of cool. If we can get her, the goal is always to get her into the top 10. And if we can do that, that's a victory for that car.
Absolutely.
And that's getting harder and harder and harder to do because cars are getting better and better and better. And, you're not seeing a lot of OE1 style cars out there that are performing at that level. You're seeing guys that are, doing a lot of IB, and especially with mid-base drivers and all that, make a huge difference. We're still running 6.5s in her doors.
Right. Well, wow.
Yeah. And it does really well with 6.5s in the door. But, again, it depends on the judge and what volume they listen at. And, that can make or break her.
Right.
Because what the car is.
So while we're on the critical line, and then I'll bounce back off that, but, being that you've been involved and seen competition in what, many onlookers would call the heyday in the 90s especially, and then you've obviously been active from coast to coast in every organization and every major event and everything else with a successful platform. What would you like, other than finals being relocated more conveniently, obviously, but what would you like to see happen going forward with the events and the scene in general?
Well, it's kind of tough. We don't do Mecca anymore. So we've kind of cut one of the orgs out, which helps a little bit for us and what we're spending and all of that. And they seem like they're kind of maybe coming back to reality. When I was seeing guys getting out of my car at the finals 2 years ago, I think, where they were, 107 dB is what they were listening at. One guy wrote down on a meter, another guy with 105, and I think the other guy was, 108 or something. If you're listening to cars at that level, and they'll tell you, it's only for a short peak, dude, I was standing outside the car when they were playing it, and they're playing at super high volumes.
Right.
So how can you judge 25 cars
right
with any sort of accuracy? And the other thing that's really interesting is all three of the judges had my car left of center. And if anything, my car's a little bit right of center, right? That's kind of where it kind of hangs out.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But for me, it's like, okay, until you start getting a grip on that part of things and you're not listening at that level, it doesn't make sense for me to compete. The other thing is I love Travis and Harry and the Iasca guys and all that. And Harry and I go way, way, way back.
Yep.
And I love the organization's history. However, it was designed the way it's designed with some of those rules because it was there to support retailers.
Right.
And supporting retailers, selling more car stereo gear, getting people to step up to the next class and all of that. And, so you kind of run into the same thing where they're not really looking at the installation of the car as a way to put it into a class. And I think that kind of makes them a little bit obsolete compared to maybe what some of the other orgs are doing and how they categorize cars. And And, you know, I could see if you win your class, they make you move up. But if you're an amateur, you should only be moving up and competing against other amateurs, right? And then they put me in the pro class, which I'm okay with. But when I first started in Iasca, I didn't know anything about tuning or any of that stuff yet. I was already bumped up into a pro class because 20 years ago, at that point, maybe 18 years ago, I had worked for a manufacturer. So, but I'd never used a processor and didn't know how to use a processor. But I mean, so I'm not sour about that, but those are kind of rules that I think if you're in the industry today, there should be classes for those guys. And if you're an amateur, I think it's unfair for amateurs to then be bumped up into a pro class. Right. You know, like Robert Boyd as an example, not that he can't compete at that level, but he's got a car then that he's competing with, you know, some of the best cars in the country. And I think they've kind of hit the limit on what his car is capable of. And he needs to make some changes, and I think that'll happen. But
the scene as far as the industry goes has changed so dramatically from even when the Mecha rules were first established. You know, the whole idea of master and extreme being differentiated was to put the manufacturers into, you know, master. But at the time, manufacturer meant Mark and Gary Biggs working for Kicker or JBL. They had, you know, enormous funds. Their job was competition. Like they had a semi truck rolling in with, you know, everything. And that was, you know, pretty much across the board. If you worked for a manufacturer, you had bankroll, you had tools that nobody else had access to, you had a lot going on. And, you know, there wasn't the access to information like what we have today. There wasn't the access to, you know, DSPs in general and the technology and everything has come to a point where Mike with a straightforward build can compete with these same guys with unlimited funds and access and everything else. And the manufacturers aren't doing that anymore. And a manufacturer, you know, it can mean Adam Slap-a-Horse versus, you know, whatever. Like, you know,
exactly.
These are the industry is a passion project now, not a bankroll. And the manufacturers that are involved, you know, even like Arc is probably the most involved manufacturer today and consistently over the past 15, 20 years. And even for them, like they're not making their money because of competition. It's a passion project, you know?
Yep.
And having it broken up like that, most of, you know, and I would say especially in the late 2017 to 20, somewhere in there in that realm, the things really shifted. And I would say Mike was a big contributor to that, you know, here as well, as far as like Sound Team 6 and everything else. Like things went from being Team Arc, Team Hybrids, Team this, Team that, to Sound Team 6 and a lot of the, you know, other kind of grassroots teams that kind of sprouted up. And so many of these passionate amateurs, if you want to call them that, have way more knowledge than most shops now. Like their ability, their knowledge, their resources, their access to the equipment, everything else is brand level. So I think a lot now, the idea isn't as much about moving up in complexity. It's like what Mike has done, and even what you've done with the Challenger, is how much can I do within this, you know, these constraints. So I mean, that's part of the fun is how much this isn't like racing in terms of physical ability or something where you just move up to the next group and you go against people who are now better than you, that you've conquered that thing. It's kind of this is the complexity of the vehicle, and this is what I got out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, part of the satisfaction way back when was if you were at the top of your game, it was seeing the same guys that you were competing against who were rivals but were also friends, and how they were then coming after you, and once in a while they would sneak up and get you. And, you know, so you had that rivalry that was built. If they then take you when you're at the top of your game and push you into a higher class, it makes it's I don't know what the right word is for it, but it's kind of counterproductive. It's no more fun anymore because it changes the whole game and you're up against all these different guys, and, you know, your system no longer is going to perform at that level. There's a reason why they're in that class, right?
it rocks the social dynamics of the competition as well.
And exactly. And that's kind of why I think a lot of us do it. It's fun. It's fun to hang out and see people and all of that. I mean, to me, that's more fun than winning. I mean, the winning part is great. I'm one of those guys, if I win, great. If I don't win, it's like, okay, whatever, right. It's not a huge deal. It's not life-changing, I guess. But some of the friends that I've made, you stay in touch with them all year long and you look forward to seeing them at finals or at SVR or at Aggie Land or whatever. And that's what it's all about to me.
For sure. Well, yeah, because there's very few places where we can nerd out about this thing. And not have weird looks, we still get weird looks, but at least it's not, at least they're weird looks that are understanding,
Yeah, there'll be weird looks, people listening to this whenever it's released. So, lots of weird looks.
And I think on the competitive note, as far as that goes, I think most people who have that desire that are there solely for the competition side of things will voluntarily move up when they're not being challenged anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, one of the things that really that broadened my thought process as far as competition goes was when the first time I did go over to EMA Euro finals and saw the diversity there, because you have so many different countries and people and SPL and sound quality and all the, everything. And then they have the big party, Saturday night, and all, they had the big trophies on Sunday, and seeing all that, you really saw the diversity of why people compete.
Yeah.
And not everybody is driven by the same thing.
Yep.
Some people are there purely to hang out. They don't even have a car, but they're groupies that are there just really part of the scene. You got the people who are there to completely nerd out. You got the people who are really interested in the music and the demoing and having the best system. You have the people who are there for no other reason to win a trophy. You have the people who are there for no other reason than the alcohol. Like,
Hey, I remember a guy that happened one year too.
That was a fun trophy ceremony.
Hashtag me too. Well, no, I don't remember it actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
But there's all different kinds of reasons for people to participate in this. And so I think, the more, and that's where I think, the multiple organizations do kind of have their place, because they do kind of give that opportunity for people to join in a different direction.
Yeah.
Different facets.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'll take some responsibility in the fact that I especially when it was just Mecca and Ayahuasca, I kind of really pushed for everybody to participate, whether you're a fan or not. It was like, to me, most people were doing it not because they preferred one thing over another. They were doing it to boycott the thing they didn't like in order to affect change in it. So that was the part that I was trying to push against was, hey, if you're going to be at the event, everybody's going to participate together as one. So that way we're all on a level playing field, and then, basically kind of get over it. And that, for the most part, at the time, that worked. Now, the organizations have doubled or more. So it's kind of impossible to tell, even at the event level, to offer everything consistently the way you would hope. And now it's like there's enough diversity where, hey, do what you want. Like,
yeah. My biggest issue, Klifton, if I'm going to one of these shows, I'm going to enter everything for the most part, right? Because you're the expenses.
The entry fees are the cheap part.
That's right. You're already there. You might as well do it, and you're getting feedback and all that, which is always important to me. And I pretty much enter everything unless there's a reason why I don't enter a particular thing. But I like certain things about all the orgs that we participate in. Ayahuasca and Emma and MASQ. I think they all have their thing. Part of me likes the fact that in MASQ there's only 4 classes.
Right.
So you're up against different cars and that part's pretty cool. It kind of whacks Teresa a little bit because she's up against cars that have a lot more, but it puts me up against cars that I normally wouldn't be up against. In Ayahuasca, it's just, they've been around for so long and I have a lot of respect for the guys that are running it. And it's also fun to hang out and see those guys. And I actually competed with most of the music that they use for it. So I think I know it pretty well. Right. So there's that familiarity. Yeah, exactly. Right. I don't remember a lot of it, but And then same thing with, Mecca, the technical side of it. Mecca, the feedback we get in California with Linda judging, did I say Mecca? I mean, Emma. With Linda judging Emma is the feedback she gives is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And she's part of the reason why my car has gotten to where it is, because she'll notice little things on the technical tracks. And then it's easy to go into those tracks and hear what she's talking about. It's not always easy to fix them, but I can identify it. And that to me is huge. A lot of times I get feedback from other stuff and I can't really hear it or identify what they're talking about. And it's harder for me to figure those out and make those improvements. So she's done a lot for helping me get my car to improve. And then also Teresa's truck, she's done a lot for that too, just with her feedback. I was actually trying to fix some stuff that's what cost me on Teresa's truck at SVR. I was trying to fix some stuff that she had found on it. And I thought I had done it, but obviously, sometimes when you close the lid on your deal and you kind of hit some buttons. Yeah. I was talking to Robert about it. He goes, yeah, I did that once. And it like lit up like 4 different bands and then they all just jumped. So,
and it's like, where were they before? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always have it saved ahead of time.
Right.
Almost always. Every once in a while I don't. It was easy to go back and reset it at the end of it.
Right.
That's all I did was put it back to where it was before. And I was like, oh,
you just
okay.
didn't know you needed to in time.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting. You'll hear a lot of people talk about how there's too many orgs, it costs too much money and all of that. And I think that sort of stuff sorts itself out over time.
Yeah.
Whether somebody buys somebody or what. And, it seems like the WCA format is a pretty cool format overall. And I think most people are comfortable with where they fit in terms of their car and all of that. And I think their music selection is fantastic. There's some really good stuff in there, and it's a wide breadth of music that, all of it's pretty good. And a lot of it's, like I'll keep going back to Put On, but it's a purpose track. And, it's aggravating for me, but that's what makes it cool, right? Because it does what it does and there's no way around that.
Yeah. it gives you a really easy to hear metric that anybody can understand. You can convey what you heard to someone real quick and easy. They can go back and re-listen to it and say, yes, I can pretty easily fix that, or decide not to and just go on to win the money round anyway.
Yeah. You were funny at Aggie Land because you and I think Tim Gowdy gave me the same exact feedback. I don't know if he uses that track. I think it was Gowdy. Yeah. And he said the same thing when he got out. And I told him the same thing I told you. And he goes, well, good luck with that. And just walked away. Right. I'm like, love you too. Then. Love you too, Tim. Right. He was smiling when he said it. Right. And then I was like, oh, I screwed it up.
Well, it all worked
Whatever.
Out.
Yeah, no, it was all good. It was pretty funny though. So what do you guys think about all the different orgs? And I know you've talked about it before on here, but you hear a lot more than I do. You're out there doing this, talking to people that are in the industry and all that. What's the general consensus on, having, 5 of them?
Yeah. I think a lot of competitors think that's probably too many.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, how many fast food joints is too many, and so on and so forth. You vote with your dollars. And
yeah. Well, I would say fast food joints have a lot more potential clientele than car audio does.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. But, I don't know about that. Everybody that has a car stereo, whether they choose to improve upon it or not. But I don't know anybody that rides around in silence,
What I did today.
On purpose, or is it broken?
On purpose.
Oh, okay.
Purpose. Actually, it wasn't in silence. I was on the phone the whole time. So
okay.
That doesn't count, I guess. So.
Yes. Mono.
I was going to say the hard part is that we are going after the exact same demographic though, like pretty much consistently. So, what becomes how do I put this, choice versus coercion,
Yeah.
Because it's there, but then at the same time, it's like, what do you take away? Because everybody kind of has their favorites as well. So it's just kind of become a dynamic that's there until it's not. I would say that, obviously all 3 of us have a lot of experience with the Star CA formats, WCA, ACA, MCA, that. And, I think the hard part is that, I think from a logistical standpoint with having an understanding of today's cars, with offering, music formats that have a breadth of options for judges to pick what works best for them directly, because they have direct control over the music that goes onto it, with the liner notes that come with the music, with the vast amount of input that has gone into the score sheet, and getting that as objective as possible across the board. I mean, I think there's, in terms of being up to date with today's competitors and judges in today, everyday formats, the Star CA is probably the most objective, current, and connected format that's available. The problem is that it looks like another org coming in to take.
Yeah.
And it's, in my opinion, if the Star CA format had come directly, and of course the problem is that all the people that were involved with Star CA were all also involved with Mecha. But if it had been able to come in as a direct flip at the time when things kind of changed in dynamic with Mecha, and been able to come directly in at that point, or even a little bit before, that would have taken hold. I mean, and obviously I was directly involved with bringing Emma in and everything else. So, I mean, I hold some responsibility there as well. But I mean, I think the Star CA format, from a logistical and objectivity standpoint, could have easily come in and just been a flip flop from Mecha, and it would be Mecha, and it would be Star CA and IASCA, and Emma and MASQ would probably not have the ground they have today, in my opinion, because it was a two format game. I mean, up until 2021 or so, it was Mecha and IASCA, and nobody was going, we don't need IASCA. Nobody was going, we don't need Mecha. It was more regional based on who was doing what, and it worked for the most part. I don't think there was anything that has been groundbreaking in terms of things being better as a result of the multiple orgs. But now everybody is kind of emotionally attached to their favorite part.
To their favorite one, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and
some of it has to do with the organization. Some of it has to do with the classifications. Some of it has to do with alliances with people that are involved with said organizations.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of different reasons to have your own favorites, but
and I can tell you with a surety from the event promoter side that if you make any changes on any of that, you will get feedback from everybody, no matter what you do.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Yeah. I could promise you it is a no-win game in making everybody happy in that. So
ultimately it becomes a financial thing. Eventually the pain's not going to be worth the gain for some of these guys, right?
It's going to have to be, yeah.
Or we're going to grow SQ and they're all going to be happy somehow. And I hope that's what happens. I mean, I don't have anything, against any of the guys. I mean, I like all the people that are doing it, and
it's just a logistical nightmare.
No, exactly. And as we saw at Aggieland, right? Trying to get all the scores done at the end there.
Right. And that's where I think if the orgs could do better at unifying themselves together in some way, again, making finals cohesive and bringing these things together. But as long as they're silos, it's going to just kind of be the way it is, and it's just going to have to either be the way it is and everybody just leaves it at that and they're happy with that, or else, because that part of the problem is, like you said, people vote with their dollars, and but everybody, like you, by the time they get there, they're like, well, I have no reason not to just do everything at this point. It's another
and I'm a sucker. I want to support them all anyway, right? So that's part of the problem. I think a lot of people are that way. We want to see them all succeed. I don't want to see anybody fail.
And I don't think any of them are doing harm. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. Totally agree.
There's no reason for any of them to fail. It's just a matter of, it's a more complex world.
So I was going to start my own org. So what I'm hearing you say is that's not a good idea.
I mean, you can, sure.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I have time. I have time for that. I don't know how Richard does it now with all
that man. I'm convinced he's just an alien, and that's he's hacked the code with NASA, and yeah, I don't know, because I had one too many things hit my plate around the time of Aggieland, and I just had to disappear and take care of life for a while. And it's like, and I told him that like repeatedly, like even because I got involved with MCA and everything else, and then April hit and some personal stuff hit, and I was like, I just can't. I got nothing left. I was like, but I don't know how you do it, because I know he's going through a whole lot with his normal job and life and everything else too. I'm like, somehow you're able to keep juggling. I just can't. I don't have the ability. I can't do it.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
I don't know how he does it either. I don't know how you do it. And Mike, you travel a lot and do a lot of judging too. I mean,
on top of owning a business and having a family and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy.
Well, the secret is I don't do any of them very well. So,
well, I was going to bring that up, but I figured it wasn't appropriate.
The secret is just half-ass it all, and you whole-ass everything.
You can do a lot of stuff kind of poorly.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I think Cassie Hall was telling me that you could judge a car with like 2 songs, the whole car. I think that's what she said. You could, not that you do, but I mean that's actually pretty impressive.
I mean, you just pick a couple songs that you know pretty well and has a lot of the attributes that you're looking for on the score sheet.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how I like to pick my track lists anyway. But yeah, I mean, like if I would probably pick 3 songs. So it'd be Billie Jean.
I was going to say Billie Jean for sure.
Yeah. I Want You Back, and then Put On, and then that's it. Done.
That's awesome. I'm like, I got to listen to 100 songs before I make a change. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Part of that is that you also then get to enjoy the music, right? So,
well, yeah, sort of, except, once I've heard the part I want to hear, I jump to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm not really enjoying the music. I'm really,
listening for problems is what you're doing.
Sometimes. Yeah. It's usually new music that I sit and listen to all of it, stuff I don't know. That's the fun part for me. I'll sit and listen. My wife thinks I'm nuts, but I'll be up here listening in the car for 3 or 4 hours or something. And she thinks I died, had a heart attack in there because there's no cell service there and I'm late for dinner or something. He's never late for dinner. Have you seen him? He eats all the meals. Yeah.
Mike, you got any follow-up questions?
No, I don't think so.
There was something I wanted to ask you guys. I can't remember what it is. So obviously it doesn't matter.
It's super important. We probably made up the answer anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah. Well, that would have been okay too.
We can always do that later.
No, I'm just happy you guys invited me on. It's really cool.
It's been great to hear your perspective. Like I said, I know it's a very unique one, and I know, like I said, a lot of people don't realize how much experience and how much you were involved in shaping the car audio world we have today. So thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, it's funny. You look back on stuff, you don't think about that. Although my dad used to always say, the older I get, the better I was. So yeah, right. It's
like I always used to tell my dad, like, man, when I was little, you were like the smartest person I knew.
Exactly.
I got to be like a teenager in early 20s, and you're the stupidest person I knew.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as you got older, you got a lot smarter again. So, I mean, congratulations.
Yeah, that's right. That's so funny, but so true, right? That kind of describes all of us, I think, with our parents.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. And look forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to the finals?
Yeah. I'll be there.
I'm not totally positive on my attendance yet. I'm sure Mike will be there, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yes to all of them. So
yes to every show you'll be at all of them.
Yeah, so I'm judging ECA finals, MCA finals, WCA finals.
That's right. We'll see you out here.
Birmingham. Yeah, I'll be at Birmingham. So
you're judging at Birmingham, or you're competing? Little of both.
I don't know yet. I mean, right now, I just have. So like last year, I really just had booth space. I didn't compete in anything. And Travis, he hit me up to see if I want to do the booth space again. I'm like, sure, yeah, why not? It was pretty inexpensive, so
that's cool.
Why not? So at least I can be in the building with my friends,
Yeah,
that's the important part.
Yeah, I can park.
Yeah, I mean,
inside,
exactly.
Cause a ruckus.
No, that's cause a ruckus. Could you describe the ruckus?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Just real quick at the end. So we just had Monterey Car Week, right?
Yeah.
You guys know about that? Oh my God! So talk about an interesting event. Like the Concordia Elegance is kind of what started the whole thing here, and that thing is still amazing. But they had this thing, I think, what do they call it? Exotics on Broadway, which used to be on Cannery Row, and it was kind of a free show. All these exotics would show up, and there would be 20, 30,000 people that would show up and just clog the whole city. And this year, and I think it started last year, but we had guys doing, sideshows and all that kind of stuff. Cops trying to break them up. It's just become kind of a shit show, I guess is what you would call it, right? So it's, and I always tell people, come here for Car Week. It's amazing, and it still is. But man, you got this weird sort of element that is kind of trying to take it over, and it's all kind of over social media stuff. So you'll see videos online if you check it out. But anyway,
takeover stuff, or
like total takeovers. Like as an example, they took over the In-N-Out Burger, and there's a 4-lane road in front of that they then had all clogged up in both sides. And then there's a Home Depot parking lot, and with a Staples and some other stuff, and they had that where it's 100% you couldn't get a car in there. And the cops came and finally broke that deal up. And then they went to Sand City, which is about a mile away, and took over like a huge parking lot and all that stuff. And, they're revving their motors and blowing things up. And,
I don't understand. My kid is, heavy in the car culture world. And, he's one of the top people in that, the influencer side on Instagram and all that. And, so he's super in tune with, all those people and everything. But I'm like, they do stupid stuff on the road sometimes, but it's one or two cars. And, it's other than that, it's at, festivals and tracks, not.
Exactly. As it should be.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't, even he, like I said, he's 20 years old. He's super into the culture. He has a Z06 Corvette. Like he's involved. He's fast. He does all those things, but, like even for him, he's more ruckusy than I ever would be. But, I just don't understand that culture. Like it's just, I don't get how it's fun. Like all you're doing is tearing up money or somebody else's money. Like it's just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
And the part I don't understand is how a lot of these kids are affording $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 cars or $1 million cars. They don't own them. They're leasing them, yet they're blowing them up.
Right.
Like you blow a motor on a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something like that,
right.
it's a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 deal to get it fixed. And if you don't own the car and you're doing that, it's kind of criminal, but I don't know. I mean, and here in Pebble Beach, which is a beautiful place, and there's videos of a guy in a pink Ferrari doing donuts at a turnout where they have harbor seals and all kinds of stuff down on the other side of that have pups. And I sound like a really old man right now saying all this when I hear myself doing it, right? But it's like, come on, guys. I mean, why are you doing that here? What's the purpose? Yeah, so you can do burnouts and donuts in a car. I mean, I got a car that sits in the garage here that can do way better burnouts and way better donuts than yours. Right? And you don't see me doing it. It's like, I mean, I just don't, I don't know. So I think I'm officially at that age where I'm disconnected with today's youth.
But like I said, I think today's youth are also disconnected with today's youth. Like
that could be. Yeah. All right. So that's why I was going to bring it up. Your guys' perspective.
It's a totally, I think it's a very selfish, central, small circle of people that are causing a lot of issue, trying to, or thinking that they're influencers, I guess, in that remark, as far as just getting the popularity on social media, that is very short-lived, because I don't think it's, like I said, even within that community, I don't see it being respected by anybody. So
yeah, no, I 100% agree. There's a handful of guys that did it in the past and made a bunch of money doing it, I guess. And now, you get 100,000 people down here driving shit boxes and thinking that that's going to get the same kind of coverage that somebody with a legit car does or something. I don't know. I just don't understand it. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing myself sound like an old crusty
Get off my lawn.
Exactly. Well, no, if they did burnouts on my lawn, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because there's no lawn.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think it's yeah. Again, it's a difference between. I think the old man is somebody who gets mad at somebody for racing a red light to red light or whatever. Like I think that stuff has always been there and it's always going to be there. And that's street muscle car, street racing, whatever. Like I mean, that culture is always going to be there, but it's always been relatively underground. Like you don't know
exactly.
You don't really know it's there because on purpose, people do it. Hopefully when there's fewer cars around, they do it smart. They're not, wrecking like the whole takeover thing. They're tearing stuff up on purpose. And, it's not, and like you said, where is that money even coming from? Who knows? Like, and it's funny because like my kid gets constant comments on, especially Facebook, just, oh, daddy's money. Oh, this, that, all that. And it's bro, he paid cash for all that out of his own money. Like he earned that, and so he respects it. It's like, he knows that if he tears it up, there's no saving it.
He's got to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's good hearing you say that because, we were posting a bunch of like high end homes on Facebook and different social media platforms. And there's this element out there that just is, kind of just poo-poos it like it's overpriced. Nobody can afford to buy that. And then I said, well, we're going to sell it. There's people that want to buy it and pay those kinds of prices for stuff. But why are you putting that opinion out here? It's just to be negative or?
Oh, and Facebook in particular, like it's funny because he gets, he has literally billions of views. So that's
awesome.
He gets everything, but you can see it like going through his comments. If you go Instagram versus YouTube versus TikTok versus Facebook, and the Facebook is definitely the most out there where they will just call him every name in the book, and go after, personally, and you should die. And I mean, just like vile stuff over a kid posting a video in his car. Like didn't even do anything illegal. I mean, one video he posted recently was like an older guy in a pickup truck gives him a thumbs up. He gives it a blip and does a quick pull just to, whatever. And then the guys again, like, cool, whatever, taking pictures of his car or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a genuinely good like interaction.
Yeah.
And people were just tearing him up. But then like on YouTube, they're like, cool, that's awesome.
That's
whatever.
awesome.
Like,
yeah. Good connection with somebody who's a little bit older in a truck or whatever, right?
Right.
That appreciates that. Yeah.
But yeah, so like you're not alone when it comes to the Facebook comments. Like people will just be vile for no other reason than to be vile. I'm convinced. It's like it's terrible.
Hobby.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like I need to talk to your son about doing some real estate posting stuff for us. It sounds like I want billions. I want billions of views.
Yeah, right.
I've got content. Look at me. I can do this too. No.
he actually was. It's funny because he was actually looking at when he was 16 or 17 or so. He was really getting into photography at the beginning, and he was actually considering real estate photography for a while, and then he just kind of lost interest. But it's interesting. It's been interesting to watch for sure.
No, that's really cool though that he's successful at it. That's awesome. It doesn't surprise me. Right? Off the old man.
Yeah, well, if you remember, I mean, he was the one going around SVR on his hoverboard and stuff back in the day, like taking video, taking videos of cars and doing this, like all the shows when he was like 10, 11, 12 years old. And then, he's made a full blown career out of it. So it's pretty cool.
Good for him, man. That's awesome.
Yep. Anyway.
Cool. All right. I didn't mean to go down the hole, but I was going to bring it up just because it's Car Week and it's an amazing event. And even that kind of seems like it's trying to go to crap, but so anyway, right on.